This episode of Filmhouse is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy today at expressvpn.com/film.
Hey everybody, welcome to Filmhouse, the movie podcast from Funhouse.
And for Funhouse.
Yeah, it's mostly for us.
It's from and for Funhouse.
This show is made for three people, and they're on this call. Welcome to the show today. We are joined by a very, very, very special guest who we've wanted to get in Funhouse content forever. Chastity Vincencio from GameSpot.
That was going to be for me.
I always want to say GameStop. I know that's the thing that probably everyone does, and I'm sorry.
I was honestly terrified of doing that when I first started the job. But yeah,
I
haven't. And I'm still working there. So that's good news. Thanks. Yeah, I've been wanting to do stuff with you guys for a very long time. I mean, we've collaborated at like 3 E3s in a row. Sadly, there was no E3 this year, so we didn't get to hang out, our like annual hangout. But yeah, I'm glad we're doing this, and I'm glad we get to talk about movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And you're usually like on the carnival circuit winning prizes. They're all displayed behind you there.
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It took $50 to win this Psyduck. Yeah, I love all of my plushes. It's just kind of my work from home set. Adjusting to working from home, I'm like, what do I do for background? Because I didn't want like just a blank wall, and I don't want to put holes in my wall. So I'm just like, I've got a bunch of random plushes. So I put good old Sonic and Snorlax and Psyduck and Totoro over here.
Listen,
I love it.
I'm never going to begrudge a Sonic set, but I'm just going to toss it out here. What about toaster oven?
Oh.
Toaster oven, because
like Brave Little Toaster?
Yeah. Referencing Brave Little Toaster. That nightmare film.
I get it.
I have a plant. I don't know if that helps. That's Little Shop of Horrors, but you can't really see. But on the keyboard behind me, there is I'm just going to say it's Akira poster art. That's pretty rad, but you can't see it because it just looks like sheet music. So, oh well.
Okay.
Sheet music's cool too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know.
Everyone's got a great setup. Well, I called you here today with a purpose, and that's to talk about one of our favorite stars.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, I thought you said James Remar.
We were supposed to get some hot Maverick Tom Cruise this year. That didn't happen, though.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
Who knows when we'll get that?
Who knows? But I just think Tom Cruise is a really interesting person to examine in film and entertainment. Mm-hmm. He's had a 30-year career. He's recognized worldwide, attached to several billion-dollar franchises, has had multiple high-profile and unusual romances. When he does anything, it makes international headlines. He's lifted up cars with his own strength to save babies.
Has he actually?
No, hasn't he saved somebody that would had a boat accident or something?
There were probably like 6 Scientologists behind him helping that you couldn't see because they have Octocamo or whatever. But I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Tom Cruise's home is a portrait of him that he commissioned, which is him hanging from a rope ladder, which is attached to a helicopter, reaching down to the POV of the artist.
Oh.
I feel like he must have something like that because that's how he imagines himself.
He might.
It's very specific, but it's also very accurate, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a tornado.
Yeah, other stars struggle at the box office to retain relevancy. The age of the box office draw star seems to be a dying thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more because I think Tom Cruise, my hypothesis for this podcast is that he is the last movie star.
Oh, okay.
You can't sell a movie anymore just based on the talent that is in it.
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
There is no one celebrity, one movie star that you can put on a poster and say, come just solely because of this person.
James Remar?
James Remar would disagree.
I think it's just a antiquated thought to think that you can sell a movie based on a person. And there are ensembles and there are IP, and we'll get to all that because that's kind of the next wave. There is one actor that I think can maybe do that. Could be the next Tom Cruise. And we'll get to him in a little bit.
Well, you already narrowed it down by 50%, so I know it's a he. And it might start with his first name might be James, last name Ree something.
Well, some of the top drawing box office and earning women are Scarlett Johansson. Mm-hmm. She's up there, and that's Marvel. Mm-hmm. Cate Blanchett, probably Lord of the Rings. That's a big attribute. And mm-hmm. Emma Watson is way up there too. Mm-hmm. But Tom Cruise, for a variety of reasons, is still highly bankable and draws people to the movies himself. I looked at his last movies from the last 5 to 6 years, and Mission Impossible Fallout just crushed. It made $800 million worldwide. The Mummy, as bad as The Mummy was, it made $400 million.
Mm-hmm. I'm shocked it made that much money.
Right?
Yeah, but I mean,
it's funny because it's considered a failure, but
yes, it is.
This is where we are. Yeah, $500 million.
Yeah, whereas 35 years ago, it would have been they're like 400. Oh my God, made 12 of them. Oh my God.
Mission Impossible Rogue Nation made $680 million. Edge of Tomorrow, $370 million.
So it's weird because these are the lower end. Some of these are the lower end Tom Cruise numbers. Like Edge of Tomorrow is not considered a massive success.
No.
But it still made $400 million.
Yeah, his lowest recent film was American Made, which made $134.
Which is a pretty good movie, by the way.
It's a great movie.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's really good. Except for the fact that it's him, Tom Cruise, and we'll probably get into this later where we talk about his attributes as a star, but he's refused to age. Mm-hmm. So, you can still do the things where you cast an older guy as a younger character. I mean, The Irishman is probably the most horrific example of that. But in American Made, they constantly remind you how young he is, and then they cast him up against Alice Eve, who's
probably in her late 20s.
In her late 20s, and it's just my high school sweetheart. And I'm like, I don't think so, my friend.
He's finally melting a little bit. In the last Mission Impossible, he's getting the jowls a little bit, but it's also he's pushing 60. So I think
you can't fight time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's funny. You do Top Gun, the super sexy scene with him and Val Kilmer, teeth chomping with each other. They're about the same age in that scene, and then you just see the diverging path of how each one went about their lives, and just how one seems to be youthful forever until somewhat recently, and the other one just got bloated at one point.
I mean, and got cancer. But
yeah, I mean,
there's an X factor there. Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, so this sounds terrible and totally superficial, but Val Kilmer looks better post cancer than he did pre cancer.
All right, we'll just leave that in.
Edit that.
How old is Paul Rudd?
Paul Rudd's gotta
72.
Be 50, right?
He's in his 50s.
He's got to be 75. No. I think he's also in his 50s. So yeah, when I think of just stars that don't age, Tom Cruise is up there, Paul Rudd, and Jennifer Lopez. I just don't understand the three of them.
Jennifer Lopez hasn't changed. It's wild.
There's a commonality between many of them, which is multiple decades worth of success.
Yeah.
Never not being in at least whatever tier they are of fame.
To preserve yourself.
Yeah.
Money and access will let you look beautiful for a long time, aka Jennifer Connelly.
Before we get into
great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. It's in Snowpiercer series. She looks amazing. But before we get into maybe why Tom Cruise might be the last movie star, I wanted to ask all of you just a couple sentences on your personal connection to Tom Cruise. James, you want to kick it off?
My personal connection.
Yeah.
To Tom
how do you feel about Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. Let's see. Well, we need to find a film he was in with Hugh Laurie and John Malkovich. That's how I get back to me. Oh, you mean
yes.
Okay? No. I've always really appreciated him because basically, with your thesis, he is just pure movie star. It does make me sad because it feels like he sacrificed any sort of individuality to be Tom Cruise, the movie star, for every single day of his life, for the rest of his life, for the entirety of his life. That I have no idea who he is as a person, which is weird. But to watch him on screen, it means that when he is in full-blown Tom Cruise mode, I probably enjoy him more than any other actor. Just on a personal note, I have just a very emotional connection to the Mission Impossible franchise because my father was a spy. No, I love the franchises, and it seems like out of all of those, there's James Bond and Mission Impossible. I've always been into the spy genres. Never was a Bourne guy. And so Tom Cruise is the Mission Impossible franchise is such a flagship spy film genre and film franchise that I really love that he's a part of it.
And it's his biggest franchise. And I mean, one of the points we'll get to is how Mission Impossible lives and dies with Tom Cruise. But yeah, Chastity, how do you feel about Tom Cruise?
I completely agree that I have no idea what his actual personality is. He's just become this being, this Tom Cruise, and I don't know what he is actually like. So that's a really good point. But I've watched him my entire life. I was born in the 80s, so it's just like he's always been around. And he's just such a force, and he's just so captivating to watch. And I watched the Mission Impossible movies since I was a kid, and they keep getting better and better. Those are really great. He very rarely takes supporting roles, and I think that's amazing that he can even do that. You could probably count them on one hand, and when he does, they're like extremely memorable. It's like Magnolia, and then
Tropic
when he did Tropic Thunder, yes, incredible. So like he rarely does those, but when he does, he makes them count. But he's one of the only stars that can do that can just basically like, no, I'm always the star. That's it. And I'll do supporting roles once a decade.
Do you remember when he dressed as his Tropic Thunder character and danced on stage with Jennifer Lopez? Like,
no. How can I forget?
It's so unreal. And apparently he's also been trying to coerce her into joining Scientology for decades.
Of course.
Oh, that's nice.
Of course.
But Adam, what about you, buddy?
Well, you almost should just remove me from this podcast because I have the most personal connection in a way. I mean,
it's true. Chastity, do you know this? Do you know this story that Adam's going to tell right now?
No.
So
this is really fun.
On my dad's side, there's Uncle Ron, but then there's also Uncle Tom Cruise, who played Uncle Ron in the movie Born on the 4th of July, based on the book about Vietnam. And it's like, it's weird that I never talked to my uncle. I met him like a few times as a kid, and he has just disappeared from the face of the earth somewhere in Malibu, I think. But it's this weird thing where it's like, you could always look at it and go, that's a movie about someone in my family. That's weird. And then,
wow.
Yeah. And then the closest thing I have to achieving any of that was I was in the movie Girl Next Door, playing lacrosse. so we're kind of like peas in a pod in that
Absolutely.
way. So yeah, like cut from the same, like I can't wait to meet Tom one day at the Scientology Welcome Center and be like, oh, by the way, and he just keeps walking.
That picture you shared, Adam, of all of Oliver Stone, Tom Cruise, and Ron Kovic all holding up their awards is like one of the funniest images because there is a little bit of you. It does kind of a weird. I mean, that's if you look at anyone's extended family, you can be like, I see it somewhere. But it is funny to imagine you in that scenario, like celebrating with Tom Cruise and Oliver Stone. I don't know. It's a great photo.
I think I may have been a fetus when that movie came out. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Do you feel like he did a good job?
So similar to how you guys are talking about, like, I'll never know Tom Cruise. I don't know if I'll ever know my uncle because he is, I think I only knew him a little bit as a kid, but like he was fairly, guarded in that way where it's like, as far as I've heard from other family members, like he doesn't really talk to many people and he's very kind of secluded, but obviously that's sort of what happens. That's an after effect of, living through a crazy war and being doing the stuff that he does. I don't know if he's been that active, but anyway, family's weird.
But what about Tom?
Chastity did not know she was walking into this.
Yeah. Wow.
No, I mean, that is a weird thing too, where I'm just like, I just enjoy Tom Cruise movies typically. The thing I always liked about him was he rarely works with the same director twice. I think there's only 2 that he's worked with multiple times. Maybe 3, but
Spielberg, like Tony Scott.
Maybe. Yeah. Did he work with Tony Scott twice? I forget. Maybe.
I guess. Yeah.
Top Days. Yeah. And then Doug Liman, and then McQuarrie, the new guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Christopher McQuarrie.
I always thought that was really interesting that he rarely worked with the same director twice.
I mean, I would imagine it's because he is the closest thing to an acting auteur, right? Like, auteurs generally you think of as being the writer or the director. It's just like it has to be their vision. It does feel like when you work with Tom Cruise, you have to sacrifice whatever you're going for Tom Cruise's vision of what it is, because he's probably bigger than the movie you're making.
Yeah, I think Tom Cruise unto himself is a spectacle that draws people. I genuinely think that that's why he has that last movie star quality, where I'm not going to go see a movie just because Scarlett Johansson's in it. I like her, but I'm going to go see a movie because I know Tom Cruise is going to do his own stunts. It's going to be wild. He's going to pour himself completely into it, and he's going to be a spectacle to see. And there used to be those movie stars that they could just draw someone to a movie. You just knew that X person was the star of this film and you wanted to go see it. And that's a little bit of a fading feature. Now, IPs and ensembles are kind of the new stars. So Tom Cruise has mastered the formula of star plus franchise. And even then, big franchises now can exist with certain talent leaving them. For example, Marvel, Robert Downey Jr. leaving Marvel. It's not a nail in the coffin for the franchise. But if Tom Cruise left Mission Impossible, I think that might be the end of it.
Well, what's interesting there is that he was almost Iron Man, or he was very close to being Iron Man. Yeah, he was.
Gosh.
Yeah, he was one of the first people they wanted to be Iron Man, and I just wonder what that would have been like.
For sure. Do you know if he withdrew or if?
I think. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they landed on Robert Downey Jr., but I feel like it was a Favreau move, and that he won that argument because he was really rallying for RDJ. But I just found a quote from Cruise, and he said that that it wasn't that close, and he loves Robert Downey Jr. in that role. He can't imagine anyone else in it. He thinks it's perfect. And then they asked him if he was open to being a superhero, and he said that the way that he chooses movies is that I look at the movie and I don't rule anything out. Does it interest me? Do I feel this is where the audience would like to see me in? What can I learn and what can I contribute? And that's how I choose my movies. And I feel like that's really interesting. So I wonder what an Iron Man, what an MCU would have been like with Cruise.
More expensive.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
More expensive.
Yeah. And would it have felt like more of an ensemble, or would he have wanted it to feel more focused to him?
Well, the thing is, I mean, just without getting too much off on a tangent, it feels like what made Iron Man so good and successful was Robert Downey Jr. Interestingly, they didn't go with the movie star with whom would draw in the audience. They went with someone who is a pretty storied actor in his own right, especially by that time, but who would then became the movie star in the film, because so much of Iron Man is him just being Robert Downey Jr. and just vamping. And then you're like, oh, that's what Tony Stark is. They just figured it out. And if it was Tom Cruise, he doesn't really have a reputation for that. I don't know that Tom Cruise necessarily improvises other than him saying oh, I was only supposed to do a half tuck when I springboarded off of the trampoline and I went for a double twist tuck. Not that he's only a stunt guy, but most of his stuff doesn't feel
physical. It's not.
Yeah, he's not doing long interviews about how much he came up with on set and how people played around with Tom Cruise. It's mostly his acting intensity that he varies. So it's crazy.
I mean, I guess he kind of took on he was looking for the superhero angle with Mummy. Yeah, because that was supposed to be their weird MCU
Dark universe.
Yeah, and maybe he was like, that's weird enough. I can be the Iron Man of Mummy, or sorry, of the Dark Universe. But there's something to be said too, where an actor like Tom Cruise would hurt something like Marvel, where Marvel seems to exist where you can kind of slot anyone in, an actor you've never seen before, or maybe someone you're vaguely familiar with, filling a role, and the property is bigger than the actor, which probably helps them in terms of longevity, because you can have your biggest star exit and the next movie is going to be fine because you have 16 other people to carry it and then build up those people over the next 10 years or whatever they're doing in their strange machine that they have built.
Something that could have been fun would have been if and I guess it still theoretically could happen, but is if Tom Cruise, we were talking, Chastity, you were mentioning how he doesn't normally choose supporting roles that often, but when he does, they're really stellar. There's a world where Tom Cruise could fit into the Marvel universe as that. Like, like Matt Damon being
Benicio del Toro, the collector.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro. Maybe even something like that is even too big. But like, I'm just talking about like one of those one-off fun, Marvel Cinematic Universe enhancing moments that are like really enjoyable, or even him in a CG thing. He's never like done a Andy Serkis style thing where he's kind of just been a voice. Like, I feel like Tom Cruise could do something really wild. Yeah. Like, Tom, go wild, and then he just has a crazy time. Especially
because Tom Cruise isn't really taking those indie chances. He's not doing the Magnolias anymore. Mm-hmm. He does these little cameos, like Chastity, you were saying, but he's not taking any indie chances or role chances. He seems to just be looking at what is the blockbuster action movie I can make. Yeah, even American Made felt like it was a little bit of a divergence from that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. But according to the numbers, the site that tracks box office data, Tom Cruise brings more value to a movie than any other actor or actress. So not necessarily...
He's a reverse Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, it's not that the movies that he makes make the most money. It's just that he himself has an added value to a property than anyone out there. Interesting. Apparently.
Which is probably what makes it... people have to think twice about working with him, because whatever movie you're making, you now have to add $40 million to it. Just for his EP fee, his acting fee, and then, his handlers and his
stunt liability.
Yeah. And the animal trainers that follow him and everyone else.
He does. But the other interviews, I mean, maybe he's also really good at his self PR, except for the brief period of a few years.
We'll get to that too.
Where Tomcat.
We're Tomcat. But a lot of his interviews are in line with what Chastity was reading earlier, which is him saying like, I like working on the things I want to work on. So there aren't really like many stories of Tom Cruise being on set, being difficult, like being, not anything other than 150% invested into the making
Tandy
of it.
Newton just did you read the Tandy Newton article where she talked about working with Tom Cruise and how he, just to the point of relentlessness, he had them redoing takes of this scene, and she saw while they were doing the retakes a pimple forming on his nose, like from the start of it to the end of it, because it was just so intense. She literally just saw a pimple develop.
But that's like the worst is his reputation as gets on set, is that he cares too much, which is like, this isn't Jared Leto sending rats to people necessarily, but like it's just a funny flip side, because you would think there would be some ego there. He didn't want to come out of his trailer.
Yeah. But to your point about, the jumping on the couch, negative press doesn't really seem to affect Tom Cruise. His stardom doesn't really seem to be tarnished. He jumped on Oprah's couch. He called Matt Lauer glib. He rallied against prescription drugs and, rebuked psychiatry. And
he's a
yet,
Scientologist.
And I mean, Scientology, I feel like, is a whole other horse of a different color. Yeah. But even with just these things, he hasn't had any fallout, it seems, from the audience.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You would think that he would find himself looking down the barrel of a rogue nation, not prepared to go see his films.
Yeah. I mean, someone say this is
he'd have to disappear, initiate some sort of ghost protocol.
Yeah. Oh, well, I feel like you're right, Elise. Like he has all this negative press, and getting over that's like a Mission Impossible 2.
Back in the habit.
When you use the bathroom, you always close the door behind you, right? I'm looking at everyone but the Swiss, who I don't believe do that, but I might be wrong. I'm just kidding. The Swiss, we all close the bathroom door behind us because we don't want random passerbyers looking in on us. So why, when we do that, would we let people look in on us while we're using the internet? Okay, going online without ExpressVPN is like going to the bathroom and not closing the door. Anywho, did you know that your internet service provider, like Comcast or Verizon, knows every single website that you visit? And what's worse is that they can sell this information to ad companies, and these tech giants, no, they are not iron giants, they are tech giants. They can sell them to them who will use your data to target you. ExpressVPN puts a stop to this. It creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so that your online activity can't be seen by anyone, even the Swiss. I use ExpressVPN on my devices. Everyone at Funhouse does. It works on everything, phones, laptops, even routers, so everyone who shares your Wi-Fi can still be protected, even if they don't have ExpressVPN. The best part is using ExpressVPN is as easy as closing the bathroom door. You just kick it, when you kick the bathroom door shut after you, that's what I do. You just fire up the app, click one button, and you're protected. ExpressVPN is the world's #1 rated VPN by CNET, Wired, The Verge, and countless other places. So if you're like us at Funhouse and believe your online activity is your business, secure yourself by visiting expressvpn.com/film today. Use our exclusive link, expressvpn.com/film, and you can get an extra 3 months for free. That's expressvpn.com/film. And, I was just saying all that stuff about the Swiss.
No, I guess maybe we've learned now, like there's this magic PR bubble you can live in where you don't, there's Katherine Heigl on one end, right, who just shit talks anything she works on as soon as she's off set and wants to badmouth every person on it. Then there's Tom Cruise, who only says the nicest things, and like somewhere in the middle there's some controversy here and there. But like I liken him to like a sports game almost. It's always like no matter what, he's gonna say, hey, the other team tried, we're gonna do better next time. It's like it's just almost boring. And I think he learned that from trying to express himself in any way and then showing up in a random Scientologist video.
Well, the thing that's kind of unfortunate about it, and this, again, this is more human condition and less Tom Cruise specifically, but it sucks because the Katherine Heigl comparison makes a lot of sense. Except that when she says something like that, I'm like, well, at least she's being honest. Like she's being honest about her experience, and maybe sometimes it sounds pretty egotistical, but she is being honest about her experience and kind of transparent about what that process was for her and what she wants for herself. And she did kind of get shit on and considered like pretty like diva or whatever for it. But then Tom Cruise, maybe went back to his trailer and destroyed a portrait and like turned over a chair. But then afterwards he comes out and he goes, we believed in this film. And I do think The Mummy is one of the best projects I've ever worked on. I'm very grateful to what's his face for letting me be a part of this. We'll see. We'll get him next time. And I'm like, you're miserable, aren't you?
Yeah.
He's a great actor.
Outwardly, he's fairly vanilla. I think Matt Lauer and Oprah might be the two examples of where you saw like, okay, well, this is a little bit more of a manic side of Tom Cruise.
Well, you know what happened, right? He fired his
publicist,
his manager or whatever, and then replaced
his sister,
I think. And so like basically it went from someone who was like, oh, we have your career's best interest in mind to, hey, you just be you, Tom. And then we got to see probably what it's more like to be around Tom Cruise for a few short years, and then it's interesting.
Chastity, have you seen Going Clear, the Scientology?
No, I haven't.
It's a ride. Because there's Tom Cruise footage in it, and they talk a lot about, or not but outside of that documentary, Leah Remini has talked a lot about her relationship with Tom Cruise and experiences, and about how once he freaked out because he couldn't find the cookie dough that was on the counter, but everyone was scared to tell him it's right there in front of you. And he apparently asked the Will and Jada Pinkett Smith to play hide and seek at his mansion. And all this just they're unusual stories. So to me, the worst part is that, you look at the relationship between him and his ex-wives and their children, which seems estranged. Either he's estranged from Suri, or Nicole Kidman is considered a suppressive person to their children, apparently. And that all seems fairly sad. But to me, the takeaway from that is Tom Cruise has this cult of mystery around him, which I think some of the it's a star thing, I think, to have this kind of weird eccentricity to you. And he definitely has that.
Yeah.
I think people are fascinated by it and just want to know more, but he doesn't give much to work with. And I think people had just, for years, for decades, have just been just so mystified by the whole thing.
Yeah. And you go to his movie to try to get a glimpse. You're like, maybe I can get a sliver of what's happening inside Tom Cruise. Or behind the scenes.
But I know plenty about Ethan Hunt.
Well, he seemed to regress after they realized the internet was a thing. So like when that Scientologist video leaked, and it's that weird, creepy, like almost like Tim and Eric Crimbus video almost of him like, talking about people were like spoofing it and stuff, but like, and then him doing the Oprah thing, they probably thought, it's going to air once, who cares? But then it's like, no, this stuff lives forever now. And so he probably went into this mode of regression of like, well, now I have to be super, conceal everything, which adds that extra layer of, I need to know more about Tom and what goes on in Tom's head, but you'll never know. You'll never get the full Tom.
Yeah. And it's weird because he hasn't really, like you're saying, like he's kind of regressed. He hasn't really evolved. When you look at his movie choices, he's not like he's taken big chances with his career, it seems, or that
he's playing it safe right now.
Which is not like, does he need to? He's a multi-billionaire, right? He's an executive producer on all these movies, so it's not like it's just ego at that point, right?
And other big stars that maybe were box office draws once, like Adam Sandler, they're moving to streaming. They're moving to premium cable networks, making these prestige shows for them.
I think Tom Cruise wants to make big movies. I feel like there's probably something about him. He loves being on a set with a ton of people in an airplane hangar, thinking about how tomorrow's the day he's going to be jumping out of a plane. And not to say that those movies don't exist on streaming, but Adam Sandler's deal is very different. He's like, I want to go. My requirements for a movie are to have my friends there. I want to be with my friends in a place that's nice, like that, and that's his criteria. He's never told me this personally, but this is my observation: is that it seems like he's like, it's got to be, I want to have a good time. I don't want to be stressed out, and it's got to be in Greece. Yeah.
My biggest exposure to Adam Sandler these days is that he'll do stuff with Conan O'Brien every once in a while. And it's just, and they're neighbors as well. So I guess they have more of a friendship and relation. And Adam Sandler's always talking about, he's like, Coney! He's like, I go by his house and I yell up, Coney! Get out here, Coney!
Want to touch the Coney.
That's just my window into Adam Sandler, who does seem like a genuinely nice guy. And maybe just, like, people do like to joke on his movies, but I think he might deserve his success.
But it seems like Tom Cruise wants to work. He wants to do that big stuff. Like remember when they were like, I really like those Mission Impossible movies. And so when Rogue Nation came out, that Christopher McQuarrie was like, Tom is already training. The next stunt, forget him hanging off the side of a plane as it's actually taking off. The next stunt, Tom is already training for. And it's like, what are you talking about? And then it ends up being, he wanted to do a barrel roll in a helicopter, so we had to write it into the script because, but I think he likes those like big, what am I actually working towards? Again, it kind of goes back to that interview quote you read earlier. It's like, what am I working towards by doing this film? Because I probably don't need the money. I probably don't need the money. I just want to see something on screen that convinces me that I could do that.
Well, don't they want to make a movie in space or something? Like they keep trying to move ahead with that?
Maybe. That's Fast and Furious is going to space.
Maybe.
Yes, definitely.
But there's no traction in space. What will the cars do? I don't understand. But that to me is like in Tom Cruise's mind, he's like, if I'm going to die, it's going to be making a movie in outer space, and I will be remembered forever as the first actor to pioneer space film. Like, go for it.
He wants to die doing the best stunt there ever was.
Which is, I feel like the Red Bull guy did it already. I don't know.
That guy has a name, but he's forever known as it's the worst sponsorship he ever took.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that can challenge Tom Cruise in the regard as being the last movie star? I think there's one person who can do it.
I thought of one person when you were talking earlier.
Who are you thinking of?
I mean, I think it's the person I was thinking of too.
Well, the person I was thinking of is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who has made the transition from wrestler to international film star. He blows it up at the box office, anything that he's involved with. Fast 5 made $626 million. Furious 7, $1.52 billion. Fate of the Furious, $1.24 billion. Journey to the Mysterious Island, $335 million. G.I. Joe Retaliation even made $376 million. Rampage, $426 million. Jumanji, $962. Like, these are just massive numbers.
He is the highest paid actor in Hollywood right now. I mean,
yep. He has his own production company, which gives him just some nimbleness, so that way he can kind of organize his projects at his own whim. He's got a pretty untarnished image as far as celebrity goes. Like, there's not much dirt I think you could...
Well, I don't know.
Oh.
What about when he was the people's champ?
Okay,
and then
all
he
right.
turned on all of us.
Yeah, when he went corporate. Yeah, man, those are dark times.
Corporate champ with Vince McMahon.
He's actually a celebrity that engages with their social media pretty regularly. My biggest question, I guess, is, given that not all of these, but some of them are definitely franchises, like, Fast and the Furious is reliant on a franchise. I would say Jumanji is kind of a ensemble piece. Definitely The Rock is the biggest
Jumanji
piece of
was
that.
it an ensemble piece?
I mean, it's Jack Black, Karen Gillian.
Yeah. But they've made it so, because they're game characters, they're interchangeable, and they could possibly switch them out.
Yeah.
Well, do we have?
I guess
do you
Mission
have the numbers
Impossible is
for
kind of
both?
ensemble now too.
Because Welcome to the Jungle made almost $1 billion, but then what was it? The Second Level or whatever, the other one that came out, The Next Level. I wonder how much that did, because that was an interesting scenario where they brought back the actors, but they did swap the characteristics of said actors to be in line. Yeah. And I didn't see it, but I didn't hear as much positivity off of the film as I remembered from the first one. And I don't know how, I don't know how much it made. I'd be curious if there is like an aspect of it where, well, we want to see The Rock doing The Rock stuff. And when you make The Rock be, because who is he? Danny DeVito or something in that? Like, who? I don't remember who he's supposed to be.
You're right.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't want that. No. I want The Rock to be The Rock, which is interesting because Tom Cruise is always Tom Cruise, and that has shown to be a successful formula for him.
It grossed $800 million worldwide against a $125 million budget.
What do I know? People love Danny DeVito Rock.
Yeah, I think though The Rock also is the Tom Cruise box office draw is a relic, right? It's never really going to happen again because it was such an 80s mentality of you're going to go see a Tom Cruise movie. It's Tom Cruise. And so many of these movies now, I think also as almost a safety measure, are ensembles so that they can fall back on these other actors in case something happens where one of them asks for too much money and you get into that sort of Marvel situation. I mean, they probably learned all this from the Power Rangers when they tried collective bargaining and they said, we can replace you easily.
Well, they only had 3 of them was the problem. For Power
they didn't.
They weren't all on board.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No,
they should.
Yeah, that's why they only changed over 3 of the cast members. That's why we lost Zach, Trini, and Jason. But the rest of them say they were not a united front.
Oof.
Not like the Friends cast.
Not like the Friends cast. Yeah, we learned from the Friends cast.
Thank you, David Schwimmer. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like The Rock is he is one of those people where it's like he's probably very easy to work with and he is bankable, but I don't know if it's that 1-to-1. The type of Tom Cruise thing I don't think exists anymore. And some people are like Chris Pratt. I'm like, I don't think he's as picky with his roles.
I think the entertainment industry just in general goes through these phases, right? And so it's a cycle, and we've been, this medium has existed for long enough that we can see the cycle of it's a bunch of studios trying to maximize their profits. And so they always look at what's happening now and where they're losing the most money, and then they try and change something to flip it to try and maximize the profits. It used to be, the golden age used to be, it didn't matter. Like if you had Scarlett O'Hara or whatever, like it didn't matter necessarily what your movie was about. All those
Rock Hudson,
all those horseback riding, those were all, it was the actor's name, and then it was in whatever movie he made this month, and it didn't matter because it was, you knew it was going to be their genre, and you knew it was going to be that actor, and it's going to be everything like that. Then it kind of came out of that, and then it wasn't necessarily in the brand IP world that we live in now, but it was more of we're trying to build these movies. The movies should make the money. It should be the story that's making the money. And that's what caused a lot of directors and writers to become empowered. You saw the Francis Ford Coppolas and that whole American Zoetrope thing happen. And so then from there, it's kind of, we've spun back around to movie stars of the 80s and 90s, Arnold Schwarzenegger leading that charge, Tom Cruise leading that charge. And then it seems like now we're going back where studios are more interested in brands. They want that brand identity, because then they don't have to worry. Like Adam's saying, they don't have to worry about negotiating with stars.
Tom Cruise's case, though, it's singular actor plus brand, and not many singular actors can pull that off, where it's just you.
It used to be, because it used to just be Tom Cruise. Now it's Tom Cruise plus brand, which is that's as far as they've managed to budge him.
Yeah,
right?
and I think we'll see what happens, because his upcoming projects include Top Gun Maverick, which is an existing franchise, Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat.
Is that really the title?
Are they really?
Is that an IMDb
Are they doing
that I made as a joke?
It's as rumored.
Terrible name.
Mission Impossible 7 and 8. The only non-IP is there's a movie, Luna Park, which he's attached to, where a group of astronauts go to blow up the moon or something.
He's going to space.
Ironically, that's the one they're not shooting in space. That will be done in Georgia.
Yeah,
where it's cheap.
there's a untitled Tom Cruise / SpaceX project.
There it is.
That's the one.
He wants to die in a rocket.
But so all his upcoming projects are, for the most part, tied to IP.
Yeah. I don't think. I would also say that quote from earlier is very. It seems like that's very telling, and it all seems to add up. I would say Tom Cruise, the Tom Cruise that he has presented to me, seems like the kind of Tom Cruise who would say, "I don't want a blemish on my record. I don't want anyone to be able to point at an Oblivion and say Tom Cruise can't make bank. So I'm not going to pick any movies that I don't think, whether or not it's the brand and me or whatever, can fail. Because I hate the idea of seeing a movie not be a
Oblivion made $286 million.
I know, but people point at Oblivion and say, oh, it's one of Tom Cruise's lesser successful films.
It's an indie film.
It's not it's not that good. And, it's it's whatever. But I think he hates that.
Yeah,
and
I wonder how he feels about Lions for Lambs.
Hell is that?
How anyone feels about Lions for Lambs.
He did a supporting role in that, and then he basically just didn't do supporting roles after that, with the exception of Tropic Thunder, which he shot back to back with that.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that.
There was what is the rock opera?
Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages.
Yeah,
which is another one. I think he hates those. I think he hates when they don't succeed, and I think as he gets older, he knows that his star power is waning, or is at least not as bright as it used to be. I don't think he wants to make anything other than something that's going to make $500 million at the box office. That's my psychological analysis of him.
And he's ascended to the level where he can be that picky about his projects, and he's pickier about projects than other current high-grossing film stars. Sam Jackson will do anything, but he is the highest grossing worldwide gross film star. His worldwide gross is $15.6 billion. Because he will do any movie that you throw at him.
Yeah, listen, Sam, it's a commercial where I'll do it. What is it? I'll be there.
Got it. Yep.
What else can I do that day? I'm 86 years old. Well, I'll be
every
I'll
penny
do another.
Counts. That's what he says to his manager every single day. They talk on the phone at 8:30 a.m. He goes, "Listen, every penny counts. I'll do it. I'll do it. I haven't offered you anything yet, Sam. I will do it."
I get it.
You have $500 million liquid right now. You can spend on whatever you want. You can retire right now, never have to work another day in your life.
Every penny.
Make me
counts.
Nick Fury. I want to be the glue that holds this monster together. And yes, you can use my likeness for the comic book because I'm insane.
It's actually the flipped. They did it the opposite.
My final opinion on Tom Cruise is that regardless of how the industry is shifting in terms of ensembles and IP and streaming, I do think that Tom Cruise has enough of worldwide recognition behind him. He's got enough of this sort of like mystique and interest in his private life, and just he's still a mysterious figure that people are interested in trying to get to the center of Tom Cruise. And he brings the spectacle with his stunts, and like you were saying, he just keeps trying to top himself. And so people are interested to see how he's going to top himself. And I think he's still up there. And I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I Mission Impossible films are like some of my most anticipated films. Like I'm not in and up to speed on the Fast and Furious franchise, but what most of those fans describe about your mouth dropped open. But most of what those fans describe is like how excited they are for the next one is how I feel about Mission Impossible. You know, I just can't wait to see how they do this over the top yet still somewhat grounded universe.
Is that you, Chastity?
Same energy. Yeah. No, I love the Fast and Furious franchise, but originally I did not like it because I wasn't into car movies. And then when it just became an action series and kind of like over the top, like just outdoing itself constantly and just became not a joke, but just a superhero franchise, basically. That's when I started getting really into it. So like 5 and onward. But then like I fell in love with Tokyo Drift and just like look back on it fondly now. Even though like when it first was released, I was like, what is happening? But that theme song slaps. But that's a great film. I just love the series, and now I'm just like fully invested, and I'm really excited for the next installment, which they smartly pushed all the way to like April or May of next year, which seemed sudden when they did that like 4 months ago. I was like, what? And like, yeah, that works. But hopefully we get to see it.
It's just, it's weird because, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to tell Chastity that Tokyo Drift's the only one I've seen.
It's great.
I wonder if you know.
If you're gonna watch one, that's the one to watch.
Sorry, Adam.
I was just saying it's weird because the way it used to be was you'd make a hit movie in the Tom Cruise era, and then you do a sequel after sequel after sequel and just run it into the ground until eventually it was just like Death Wish 7 or Dirty Harry 5, and it's like it's just straight to tape, or like it was in the theater for a weekend maybe, and now you have the 9th Fast and the Furious movie about to make it's going to make $1 billion. And it is weird what it's transformed into. It used to be you would just get less mileage, and now you're getting more. I don't know. Like I thought Mission Impossible would be over by now, but
it wasn't an upward trend. It was like 1 did well, 2 everyone shit on, 3 was just like, when it first came out, people were like, I don't know, this doesn't feel like Fast and Furious. And then like it was a return to form once they hit 5, and then it went back upwards again.
They pushed through. Yeah, they pushed through RoboCop 3, which most people don't push through RoboCop 3. They do a reboot at some point, but you don't use the same actors. Is weird, but yeah, it's weird that all these franchises have got around that. I guess maybe that's just a learning experience.
And there's less stigma for an actor to say, "Yeah, I'll do Crime Time 6." It doesn't feel like you're subverting your own career to do that.
Probably because a lot of the actors know how to negotiate better to like be like a producer on it. It makes more sense for Vin Diesel to want to be in the 8th Fast and Furious movie when he knows he's going to get a piece of the $900 million that it makes.
Well, I'm just saying more of it would be career suicide to say that you would appear in the 5th installment in a franchise, because there was the expectation that, this is going to be terrible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like what that would look like.
That's the same with Fast and Furious, right? It's like Vin Diesel was like, I'm not coming back for 2. I don't want to be known as the Fast and Furious guy,
Wheelman.
But then
I'm the driver guy.
he basically was like, I'll build my own. But then ultimately it seems like the brand power won out. And that was not necessarily because the brand existed alone. It's because the brand recognized what it needed. I like Elise, have only seen Fast and Furious 1 and Fast and Furious 3, but I have seen 3 16 times. So I feel like I'm pretty well informed on it. But even that movie is like, we believe only in the value of the brand. And so the studio made this movie, but the reaction was what Chastity, what you were describing, which is people going like, I mean, I guess this isn't a bad movie, but is this Fast and Furious? Is it really Fast and Furious? And it wasn't until they kind of came back around and they said, well, what if we kind of believed in the brand and said this franchise can go wherever we want it to go, but we also acknowledged where it started, so we get the cast back and then kind of go in that direction, that I think it really kind of like rocketed to space, no pun intended.
It's not in space yet.
That wasn't even
you
fun.
They'll end up in space.
They're going to space.
Well, thank you all for weighing in on Tom. I'm just the cookie dough story was the one that got me. It's right there, Tom. Nobody wants to tell you.
Compared to all the other controversies out there, it seems so low on the totem pole of caring. This is
like, finding cookie dough.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I said that wrong. It's on the top of my list of things that upset me.
Maybe like me, your morning routine has changed a lot recently since we've been quarantining. And perhaps that's even impacted your oral care. 75% of us are using worn out bristles that we don't change enough, and we're forgetting to floss daily, which is why you can fix this by having your oral care delivered to you straight to your door, which you can do if you use Quip, which I do, and I think you should too. So let's talk about brushing our teeth, because good health starts with good habits, and Quip makes it easy by delivering all the oral care essentials you need to brush and floss better. The Quip electric toothbrush has timed sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses to guide a dentist-recommended 2-minute routine, and there's even a sized-down version designed for kids. I know that I don't brush long enough, so having that timer really, really helps. If you pair this with Quip's anti-cavity toothpaste in mint or watermelon, you get all the ingredients teeth actually need and none that they don't, so no harsh chemicals or anything like that. Quip also has an eco-friendly refillable floss with a dispenser you keep for life, an expanding string that helps to clean in between, so you don't have to buy disposable floss and then trash the cases when you're done with it. You just refill and refill. The Quip brush head, toothpaste, and floss refills are automatically delivered on a dentist-recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5 each, so you don't have to remember when to swap out your brush. Quip tells you when it's time for a refresh and helps you stay committed to your oral health. And shipping is free. So you can also join 3 million happy customers, I am one of those, and practice good oral care easily and affordably with Quip starting at $25. And if you go to getquip.com/film right now, you'll get your first refill free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/film, QUIP.com/film. Because it's Quip, the good habits company. Thank you, Quip.
Chastity, I know, consumes more movies and TV than like anybody, which for me, as someone that also consumes a lot of movies.
Job.
Mine too. It's my job too.
You can like your job. That's okay.
I do like my job.
There you go.
But no, I think you have great taste.
Thank you.
I am wondering if there's a show or a movie that you would recommend to our audience right now that you're really into.
You just told me I had great taste, and now I'm about to recommend The Faculty to everyone.
Yeah, and you've confirmed your taste. You have officially confirmed it. That is a great movie.
Thank you. It is a fantastic movie. It holds up really well. Robert Rodriguez directed it. If you've never seen it, it's from 1998. It's got a bunch of people that went on to be more famous, including random cameos from the likes of like Salma Hayek and then the first host of The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, was a teacher. But yeah, it's great. It's so much fun to look back upon and watch. Like Usher was in it as well, and
Famke Janssen.
Famke Johnson, she was in that. Yeah, but it's only streaming on DirecTV, unfortunately. But you'd have to rent or buy it. But I really recommend it, especially if you just missed it, but you loved horror movies in the 90s and teen movies. It's just the perfect amalgamation of both of those things. And I think that's why I like it so much, because I just love late 90s movies, and I love teen movies of that era as well. And that was just like the perfect one for me. And it's a lot of fun. It's really campy.
I didn't miss it, but I'm going to rent it.
Yes, please.
We're going to do a Faculty Alita Battle Angel double feature.
Amazing.
Same universe.
I think that's
universe.
the DVD pack they're pushing right now. Yeah.
Oh, really? You can.
I would buy that.
Yeah, it was either going to be Faculty or Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but I get them together, Alita and the other one, the only two movies this director is known for.
I do have my Desperado. How dare you? How
kidding.
dare you?
That's me. I know more about Robert Rodriguez's life. I can make those jokes. I can do that.
He sold blood to make El Mariachi. Okay, he sold blood.
You mock his book more than anyone else.
I don't mock his book. I just read it and I was like, oh, this would be really interesting. And there's one point in his book where he's talking about struggling with writer's block. He's got all this hype from El Mariachi and they want the next big thing out of him. And I think he's working on Desperado at the time. And they gave him an office and a studio and they said, we just want the next big thing from you. We love your stuff. And he was lucky enough to have Quentin Tarantino had an office on the same lot. And one day he said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to Quentin Tarantino. He seems like he's always writing. And I'm going to ask him how he's doing. And then he gave me, this is Robert Rodriguez speaking, he gave me the best advice on writing I'd ever heard in my whole life. End chapter. Next chapter. I finished Desperado, and I was like, why did you didn't tell me what the writing advice? You didn't tell me what he said. You didn't tell me what he said.
Because I'm not going to give you my tips, idiot.
I mean, he clearly wasn't, but...
Yeah, you bought my book, moron. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a great book otherwise.
Robert Rodriguez was like a YouTuber before YouTuber in a weird way. He was this sort of like jack of all trades, master of none, where he could do a bunch of... So I recently rewatched it, but you watch his cooking videos that he did on Once Upon a Time in Mexico. It's great, but it's cut like a YouTube video. And it was like, he's like, I'm just going to do this in my house. Where am I going to upload this to? My DVD special features. And it's like, he was almost born in the wrong era, but so much of what he did set this. Maybe we do a Robert Rodriguez episode in the future because
maybe
I love Robert Rodriguez.
Chastity.
I'm down.
I think The Faculty is the number one recommendation, but do you have anything else that you'd want to know?
I would definitely recommend watching What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu if you have not yet. Both seasons are so good, so fun, so absurd, and I dare say just as good, if not better, than the movie. Which is a kind of a hot take. I mean, like, obviously they knew what they were doing and they had really good comedians in the movie, but they've perfected it into what they wanted it to be and to become, and it's just so funny. It's a breeze to get through as well. So I definitely recommend that. But yeah, I'm kind of watching everything. I'm always watching Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I know you are.
Constantly.
I want to figure out a Star Trek gameplay or something you could do with us if you want. I think it'd be fun.
I would love that. Then my last weird plug will be for a terrible movie, Tammy and the T-Rex, which is now on Showtime and Shudder, which has Denise Richards, and she's dating Paul Walker, whose brain gets implanted into an animatronic dinosaur. And it's fantastic and weird and just one of the most fascinating things I've watched all year.
I feel like that movie always gets like midnight showings at places, and Alamo Drafthouse will do screenings and stuff. Yeah. I've never seen it.
Yeah, and if you've seen it in the past and haven't seen it since like 2019, then you should go back and rewatch it because they did like a gore cut, like a scarier, like, just like the full form of what it should be, because they tried to take what it was and make it into a PG-13 movie to get people to see it, and it just wasn't the version that it should be. And now the gore cut that they have on Shudder and Showtime is perfection. It's so campy and a lot of juicy practical effects, and it's just so much fun. It's so dumb. I love it so much.
I always get it mixed up with Theodore Rex starring Whoopi Goldberg. If you were to recommend one over the other, which one's better?
I haven't seen the other one. I've only seen Tammy and the T-Rex.
Who's in the movie? I've never seen Theodore Rex, but I saw the poster a lot. Yeah. Well, I put a link for you in the Discord so you can.
Thank you.
Oh, because it's like T-Rex. I get it.
I'm pretty sure, if I recall, the poster for that movie said starring Whoopi Goldberg and introducing Theodore Rex, like as though he was going to start appearing in other films.
Like, thank God they gave that actor a shot.
He's got his sneakers and his cool jacket or whatever on, and they're leaning against each other. Great movie.
I've never seen it.
I've been we've been rewatching a lot of older stuff, and we rewatched Child's Play the other night, and which again, like in the vein of, kind of outdated effects or like campy. I mean, but Child's Play, like, I do feel like holds up in the writing department.
I guess so. I, for some reason, thought I would gain new insight into that franchise going to rewatch the first one again, because like a lot of those horror movies is like, no, but go rewatch the first Friday the 13th. It's a completely different kind of movie. But the first Child's Play is pretty much figure out exactly what that is right from the start, which I thought was interesting. And then you don't really like it has the guy Ray or whatever, like it opens with him as a criminal and it's like he's the Night Strangler and he's getting away. I don't know what any of that means. And then he falls into a toy store, finds a doll, and then just immediately starts chanting in a satanic language or voodoo or whatever, and then he's the doll. And I'm like, that's an interesting origin story. You know, Night Strangler on the run, finds doll, becomes doll.
Even weirder though, I remember the mom is like, I need to get this doll for my kid. Better go down to the docks. And there's like a bunch of like creepy homeless dudes around a barrel. And then she's like, hey, that doll's being weird. I better go back down to the docks and talk to the guy who sold it to me. I remember as a kid just being like, is that what mom does when I ask for a toy?
Like I remember how popular the Cabbage Patch dolls were, but I don't think anybody's parents were going to like alleys to buy them.
Yeah.
No, forgot to save.
Yeah. Hey, Skanky Ray, I need a new Cabbage Patch for my 4-year-old. And he's like, I got you. I got you good. Come back here behind my car.
Yeah.
The thing I would say to watch is the first episode of Lovecraft Country.
Yes, completely agree.
I heard it doesn't have much Lovecraft in it. It's in name only. That's what I heard. I haven't seen it yet.
It's got some.
Yeah, I would disagree.
That's all I'll say.
It is. It's on the. It's an adaptation, right? Of a book or something.
Yes.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
What you want me to recommend? I watched Drive again. It's on Netflix. I just wanted to watch the opening because
Drive or Driven?
Drive. The Ryan Gosling.
Sure, it wasn't Driven.
I'm positive it was. He didn't driven. Right. He drove.
All right.
And I just wanted to watch it for the beginning with the soundtrack and that opening.
And did you watch the whole thing?
Ended up just sitting and just watching the whole thing because I was like, oh, this movie holds up. It's still really freaking good. Still,
Sylvester Stallone's great.
Different movie.
Thanks so much for joining us, Chastity.
Thanks for having me.
I hope we can get you to do more like the Star Trek gameplay because you would be our. Well, actually, we should make Chastity and Matt Peak compete to see.
Star Trek.
Yeah, though I feel like she would destroy him.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I actually know more about Star Wars than I do about Star Trek, but I just have very specific loves within the Star Trek universe.
What's the opposite of a humble brag? Because I think you just did it.
Where can people find more of you on social media or YouTube?
Yeah, you could definitely check out the things that I make on YouTube at GameSpot, where I cover all movies, TV, anime, things like that with my team on GameSpot Universe. So that's youtube.com/GameSpot Universe. And then I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Chastity_V.
Awesome. I always like your takes, and I like seeing the stuff, the movies and TV shows that you tweet about, because I'm like, ooh, gotta add that to my list. Faculty now being added. But yeah, I think. Oh, Adam, what was that?
I was gonna say, Faculty's great, except Harry Knowles is in it, and that's okay. Other than that, it's aged
for
really
like a
well.
Second.
Just a second, and that's because he knew the power of the internet, and he needed to get Ain't It Cool News to say nice things about the Faculty.
And that's our show for this week.
We almost got away unscathed. Special thanks to James Remar.
He's back. He was in that movie I was in.
Bye, everybody.
Adam, you don't talk.